All right, with 5 minutes past the hour, we're going to go ahead and get started. And it looks like we're going to be a small group, which is A-okay with us, but with being a small group, we're going to make this a little bit more interactive. And we'll introduce ourselves and we'll get to know a little bit about what you all. But thank you so much for joining us here today for Healthy School Meals for All Wisconsin and your community. My name is Allison Taft-Harris. I work at Real Food Group, which is a Madison-based nonprofit. I work as our harvest school director, so I work to connect local farms with local schools. I'm going to pass things over here to Bobby.
All right, I'm Bobby Guyette. I am a school nutrition director in New Richmond, Wisconsin. So I'm up north on the western side of the state, and I'm going into year number 9 in my district, year number 13 of school nutrition work.
I'm Matt Steenstra with Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. Our food bank covers the eastern part of the state, 35 counties. Yes, we work a lot with food pantries, but when we talk about solving hunger, one of the best tools in the tool belt is through school meals. So we work with school districts and the coalition and partners to figure out how can we find more ways to connect kids with school meals. So now that we went through, we got 2, 4, 5, 7. Could we just learn a little bit about you? Because I think it's going to help also for our presentation as we go through things. We can kind of know like what to touch on and what to emphasize, etc. Could everyone just say their name and maybe like where they're from, what their role is, maybe why they attended the session? And you're coming in right here. Can I start with you? Is that okay?
I'm Natasha Sullivan. I am the Education Justice Center Coordinator with Madison Teachers Incorporated here. I have multiple hats in this discussion. I'm a parent of 2 children who attend schools in the district. I'm also just generally an advocate for feeding our children. And also as a staff member, I have a different hat there as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm Tina. I work for Madison School District in the department. And I parent of students, and I think that all students should vet those things.
Jose.
Hi, my name is Jose. I am a former teacher and issues policy advisor to the Center for My name is Kathy. I'm from Sun Prairie, just up the road. I am a retired teacher. I have 2 grandchildren in the Madison Public School System. I am part of a grassroots organization in Sun Prairie and my lead in that group is coordinating a Snacks in the Schools program for our group. All we do is provide snacks for the 3 middle and 2 high schools now. And I just have worked with the nutrition experts in our district for a long time on different issues. And when the Healthy School Meals for All came, I saw you guys at one of these summits a couple of years ago. I just thought, yeah, that's something I can go back to. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Kevin. Leland, school closure here at Fall High School. So, and here because the school, 60% of our students want to get free reduced lunch. Yeah. We don't have any free lunch, so selfishly, we'll make the double lunch.
Hi, I'm Juliana. I'm here in my capacity as staff rep so I'm very interested in learning more about feeding kids and all the things that go into that, especially rural areas.
Hi. My daughters go to 2 different schools. One goes here. But I'm just wondering, I don't know if all schools know how to access this, so I don't know how to bring it to schools, how to let them know about it. What it is even. So I think it just sounds amazing.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, I'm Kate. I work for Representative Sheldon, who has introduced this in the legislature this session and the session before.
My name is Austin Wallenfang. I also work for Representative Sheldon.
Thank you
Awesome, thank
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome, well, thank you so much for joining us here today, and with being a small group, please feel free to stop us at any time, ask questions. We want to make this an interactive session, and for you to feel like you're getting the information you want out of this session. So, I'm going to kick things off before I turn things over to Bobby and Matt, but let's just ask a question. What is Healthy School Meals for All Wisconsin? Healthy School Meals for All Wisconsin is a movement to make school breakfast and lunch available to K through 12 students throughout the state of Wisconsin at no charge. You may hear this called Free Meals for All, or Universal Meals, or Universal Free Meals. It's all the same thing. We want to make breakfast and lunch available to all K through 12 students in the state at no charge. Leading this movement in the state of Wisconsin is the Healthy School Meals for All Coalition. This is made up of individuals and organizations that want to see this happen. And this movement was really, I would say, born out of the pandemic. So when the pandemic happened, you may know all students across the country ate meals at no charge. And we want to see that continue on the east side of the pandemic. Before we go too much further into Healthy School Meals for All, I want to give a little history of the National School Lunch Program. I will admit, I'm a public school graduate, graduated from Pullman, which is up near the La Crosse area. My least favorite subject at that time was history, but the older I get and the more gray hairs that pop up on my head, I realize just how important history is in knowing where we are today and where we want to go. So I want to back things up a few years, and I want to talk about when did the National School Lunch Program all start. Shortly after World War II, the federal program called the National School Lunch Program was introduced by USDA, United States Department of Agriculture. This is by and large the program that most schools, public as well as private, are going to operate for their school nutrition program. It's not a requirement, but I would say that most schools throughout the country operate the National School Lunch Program. So you may hear me flip around between National School Lunch Program, School Meal Program. I'm referring to that federal program that's operated by USDA. Mention that this program was introduced shortly after World War II, and by and large, it remained the same in its administration up until about 2020. And what I mean by that is schools operating the National School Lunch Program had to allow households in their district the opportunity to provide their income information. If their income met a certain threshold or was below, those students in that household would eat school meals for free. If their income was at the next threshold, so that if it was at or below the next threshold, the household and those students would qualify for reduced price meals. Now, if the income didn't meet either of those thresholds, students in that household would have to pay for their school meals. Okay? So you may hear the terms free, reduced, and paid when operating the National School Lunch Program. On the flip side of things, those operating the National School Lunch Program receive reimbursement for any meal that they serve to students, whether that student is a free student, whether that student is receiving reduced price meals or paying a reduced price, or whether that student is paying for their meals. Okay? So students can receive meals at a free, reduced rate, or they can pay outright. And now on the flip side, that school nutrition program receives reimbursement. That reimbursement goes right back into operating the program. Bobby's going to talk about this a little bit more in detail later on in the presentation. But what I want to hit home here is that participation and in turn reimbursement is the way that school nutrition programs operate. Okay, I read an op-ed recently. Someone said, hey, I pay my taxes. Why is the school district asking for more funding for their school nutrition program? Okay. Those are two separate pots of money we're looking at. The taxes that you're paying aren't going to the school meal program. The school meal program is kind of its own little business, and the way it gets funding is from participation and the reimbursement it receives from the federal government. Now, some folks may look at the system that we've had since World War II up until 2020 and say, hey, we're allowing families that qualify for or don't have a high enough income that qualify for free or reduced meals to access meals. I can't say that. I'm going to encourage us to dig a little deeper. We know that 1 in 3 households that are food insecure do not qualify for public assistance for food. Okay, 1 in 3. The second is the stigma associated with applying for free or reduced meal benefits can keep households from applying in the first place. And with this, feel free to come on in. With this, I want to tell a little personal story. So before I worked with Green Food Group, I was an auditor with the National School Lunch Program here in Wisconsin with the Department of Public Instruction for 5 years. And I learned a lot of things in that job. I learned there are so many schools of different sizes, small, large, public, private, all over the state. I got to meet a number of school nutrition professionals, and I'll tell you I have the utmost respect for these individuals. They are some of the first people there in the day, and they're seeing folks. They're responsible to students, parents, faculty, staff, and they see those students year after year after year. So I have so much respect for them. I also will tell you that if you read a news article in the paper, a lot of times they'll be negative about school nutrition programs. And I'm here to tell you that that negativity is the exception rather than the rule. There are so many amazing school nutrition programs in this state. I'm going to point over to Bobby. Bobby runs an amazing school nutrition program up in New Richmond. We've got other districts throughout the state, Ashwaubenon. They're using road towers for greens for their school cafeteria. Happening right here in Madison, we had the Reasonable Scratch Cook pilot that kicked off in February, and we're hoping to be able to expand it throughout the district. So there's a lot of good things happening. But going back to that stigma piece, traveling the state, I realized that food insecurity is not just a big city issue. That was often what I would hear from folks. Oh, it's just, it's a Madison, it's a Milwaukee, it's a Green Bay, it's a La Crosse issue. And I can say, no, it's not. It's everywhere. Small towns, big cities, everywhere in between. And I share this story in particular because it just stands out to me. And it was one that continues to stick with me and really provides inspiration for why I do the work that I do right now with the coalition. So I was working up in a small northern Wisconsin town. And this individual I was working with who ran the program knew the program inside and out. She'd been doing it for a number of years. Everything just looked beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And part of my job while I was there was to audit free and reduced meal applications. So I would take the applications that they had already processed and make sure they were done correctly. And really what my day was like there was like, looks good, yep, this looks good, check out. Then I came across this one. I just kind of paused. Okay, I'm going to pull this aside, doesn't quite make sense. And so I asked the individual to come in and I was like, everything's great, can you just talk to me about what's going on with this application? She's like, I knew you'd pull that one. Let me tell you what's going on here. We're a small community. And I can tell you that primary income earner, they just lost their job. And I called to let them know. I said, hey, you can apply for free or reduced meal benefits. It's a requirement that income information is confidential just to me. I'm not going to tell anyone in our small community you can apply. But she said, I've done that multiple times to this household, and they're not submitting a free or reduced meal application. But I can tell you on the flip side, I'm seeing their student every day in the cafeteria, and they're choosing not to eat because they don't qualify for free or reduced meals. And they know if they take those meals, they're just going to be hurting their household back at home. And she said, so I filled out that application. I know I wasn't supposed to. You can write me up, you can do, whatever. But I need that student to eat. And that's what that application is all about. And that's just one of a number of stories I've heard in those 5 years. And yeah, when I left DPI for some family reasons, I said, I know too much not to advocate for the change that we need. So that's what brings me here today. I'm taking a long time to move across history, but here we go. 2020, World War II, up until 2020, the program remained largely the same. I do want to call out that USD was trying to make some changes. In the mid-2010s, they introduced a program called CEP, Community Eligibility Provision. A number of districts participate in this program. What it does is it allows students in the district to eat for free. On the flip side, allows students in the district to eat for free. On the flip side, school nutrition programs, there's some different calculators and whatnot to determine how those school districts can play. On the outside, it seems really great. If you participate in CEP, all your students are eating for free. I'm going to put kind of 2 points on that though. It doesn't cover, CEP doesn't cover everyone in the state. You know, you just heard me say that I know that food insecurity is all throughout the state and not all schools are able to participate in CEP. There's also a little pickup in like the calculator. So I mentioned that there's like some background functions to determine how you can claim. In some cases, that calculation can actually mean the school nutrition program has to operate on lower funds than if it just operated the free or reduced meal program. So there's just some things that go, you know, folks will go, hey, CEP would be great in my district, but I can't afford it because it's going to bring in less money in my program. So that's quick in a nutshell history. When did things change? March of 2020, pandemic hits. USDA says, hey schools, we don't want you to worry about that free and reduced meal application. We want all students to eat for free across the country. We're going to talk about what came of that here in a little bit. But from 2020 to 2022, all students in the country ate for free. It was in 2022 that we started to hear rumblings of USDA saying, hey schools, that pandemic, we're kind of on the other side of it now. We need you to go back to that model of free, reduced, and paid. And I'll tell you, it was at this time that state said, hold up, we've already seen a number of benefits from just allowing kids to eat. And we're going to start introducing our own healthy school meals for all by state in order to keep free meals for all. Now, what states have done this? We have 8 in the country right now that have introduced healthy school meals for all. California was the first. We do now have our neighbors of Minnesota and Michigan both participating in healthy school meals for all. Nevada is in blue because they did use some federal funding from the pandemic to offer healthy school meals for all for 2 years. Unfortunately, they decided not to continue funding that program. But 8 permanently, 9 if we count Nevada. As far as states that are working on healthy school meals for all, everyone else in yellow. Everyone else in yellow is working to pass healthy school meals for all. And what is the news saying? Just pulling a couple snippets here from the news. Local food bank says free school meal program is helping families. The surprising connection between universal school meals and student discipline. Underneath that, free school meals also appear to reduce bullying and end stigma among low-income students. I don't know if that's necessarily surprising to me, but it's a headline worth noting. Reducing free school meal stigma helps cut student suspension. Food insufficiency among children lower in states that implemented universal free school meal programs. For our neighbors in Minnesota, school meal programs starts taking burden off Minnesota parents. And looking over at Michigan, Governor Whitmer secures funding to guarantee free school breakfast and lunches for Michigan students for next year. A lot of positive things coming out of Michigan. You saw Wisconsin was in yellow on that map. You may be wondering what have we been up to? And we've got reps here from Representative Christina Shelton's office, and I can say Wisconsin's doing a lot. We've actually had bill introductions 2021, 2022, and then most recently 2023, 2024, as well as being included in Governor Evers' proposed budget, 2023, 2025. Unfortunately, all of these efforts have failed. Okay? The first bill introduction, AB 805, failed. Governor Evers' budget, the Joint Finance Committee removed Healthy Meals, Healthy Kids, which was free school meals for all from the budget. And then in our most recent session, we had both the Senate and Assembly bill that did not make it any further. But we're not letting that dampen our spirits. We're here. We have a coalition of over 300 organizations and members that are working to make this happen. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Bobby.
You can put them up. There's 5 bullets. Go ahead and just put them up.
All right.
All right, so I'm Bobby, and remember, I'm a local director, so I see the local side of things and all of this come into play. So I'm a New Richmond School District, 3,500 kids, 6 buildings, 30 staff, and we're about 30% free and reduced, just for a little bit of context. On some things, because we're like 45 minutes from Minneapolis, we're considered metro on some maps, and we're considered rural, if you ask anybody that lives there. Okay? So I want to hammer this home. Allison talked about it, but please please understand, and I want you to share this as you move forward, hopefully, in this adventure with us. School nutrition departments are self-funded operations. We are businesses within the school district. We get $0 from school district tax income. We get $0 typically from referendums that have to do with anything but operation. None of that money gets seen in school nutrition departments. We get our funding from the meals that we sell, so that parent income that Allison talked about, as well as that reimbursement we get from the federal government. We get a very small, like pennies for breakfast meals that we serve in Wisconsin, but outside of that, state dollars do not fund us, it's federal dollars. So I just want, that piece often is lost. I have had superintendents come to my district and not understand that it works in that way. So please understand that we are the only program in an entire school district that asks for financial information of households to provide a service to students. Students can come to our buildings and have recess, gym, teachers, nurses, special ed, all of these things at no cost and no questions asked. But for their meals, we ask questions. Right? So, and I also want to, this is just like a little lesson on school nutrition and finances. We could sit for the rest of the day and talk about this, but the less meals that we serve, the less funding we get and the less program advancement we have. Okay, so what does that look like? So less meals served. Cold lunches. So if a family or a parent, a caregiver, has a bad reflection or a bad history or bad thought in their mind about what school meals are and what that nourishment is, they're going to send their kids with cold lunches. I often hear, and I have one myself, picky eaters, right? So you want to make sure that your kids eat. Well, you got to see these school nutrition lines. You cannot pack a cold lunch that has all the fruits and vegetables that we have in our lines. And I didn't put them on here today, but I encourage you to go walk around. And I know we have wonderful parents and grandparents in this room that are not making those sugary lunches for their kids, but I walk around often in my cafeterias and I see what's in those cold lunches. It's very sad. So what else decreases those meals? Non-school days. I'm all about safety first, but when we have more snow days, we don't serve meals. And we then lose out on a large amount of funding anytime there's a snow day. And we don't have to think about snow days exactly. Think about things like a lot of schools, particularly my district, they are doing a lot of no school professional development days or no school like take a break day. And I get it. I want that for teachers. I want that for my staff too. But it really does hurt our program when we look at funding. Open campus. Typically seen at high schools only, but if you have an open campus situation at a high school, the majority of those kids are going to leave that building and eat. So we really want to get away from open campuses for many, many reasons, and I know we have a lot of restrictions. Is there enough space? Is there time? All of the things, I get it, but I'm just putting it out there. And all of these things also comes down to, we serve less meals when there's lack of support. If I have a principal in the building or someone that's speaking, teachers that speak ill of our meals, their students are not going to eat it. If we don't see those parents and those adult influences talk highly of our meals and support our programs in any way possible, then we're going to see that lower participation. Free and reduced levels also make a difference. So look at districts. I heard you say Madison's free and reduced rate. Did you say 60?
We'll follow specifically.
Okay, so 60%. So typically, what you see in higher free and reduced school districts is higher participation. Fortunate or unfortunate, those kids don't have any other options, so they're coming to our cafeterias more. If you have a district with lower free and reduced, they have to do things a little bit differently. Their funding is more reliant on that paid money from the parents, right? So that definitely makes a meaningful difference in financing. And what this does in turn is it forces districts, remember I said 30% free and reduced, but I am lucky. I walked into a great district and I've continued it. We have about 75-80% participation in our programs. We have 3,500 students and I serve 3,700 meal equivalents every day. So we have great participation. That takes time, that takes effort. But you know what I have to do even with that? I have to sell at least $40,000 of a la carte every single month or I don't break even. And last year that didn't even cut it. I was in the red. So that's huge. It forces us to do that, and that also includes catering. So school, we're food service, we're a business people trying to make more money to improve the meal side of our program. It's forcing me to do that a la carte, serving snacks and not great things nutritionally. I'm a registered dietitian and I really do not like putting those things out. Nutrition business, it's an evil game in my mind every day. And then catering. Catering is a fantastic way to get more income. You can cater to teacher events, principal events, meetings, those kind of things. Or you can even cater to athletic events. You could dive into the concessions world, but all of that is a whole nother business with staff that we already don't have and time that we already don't have, but we're being forced to operate in this way to be successful. So let me show you the numbers. If you're a number person, just the first one. So this is me in Richmond School District next year. So I'm in the western region of the state, and I'm in the CISAs, if you know that word. I'm in CISA 11, 39 school districts. I'm one of the highest meal prices in my region. Last year I was in the middle, but because of deficits, I'm now probably the highest in the entire region. So these are my meal prices for next year. 2 years ago, I am proud to say that we as a local decision, we removed reduced. So remember Allison talking about that reduced category? In New Richmond District and many districts throughout the state, you locally can decide to remove that. So all of our families that qualify for free or reduced are paying $0 for their meals. And I eat that, about $17,000 to $20,000 loss. I eat that in my budget every year. So that's our income for the paid meals only, right? You can move to the next screen, or the next box. These are the reimbursement rates that just were released from the federal government this last month, just a few weeks ago. So this is the amount of money that I get for every meal that I serve. I can share this whatever you want, but you can kind of read the box, paid, reduced, free, breakfast is the middle line, lunch is the bottom. You go to the next. So you add this up, and I know that doesn't make sense. That math isn't equaling, right? Because I have free, reduced, and paid. So I have three different, so this is sort of an average of those incomes. That's what these numbers are, okay? So typically, this is how I do it more diligently because I know I serve more paid students in my district, so I plan my budget a little bit more specific than this, but just for this context. Basically, this is what I have to work with in my budget to pay myself, my benefits, all of my staff, all of my equipment, all of my repairs, all of my food, all of the paper, all of the, now electricity, every single piece of my equipment is now tagged, and I pay for every ounce of electricity in New Richmond, and that's coming throughout the state. If your district doesn't have it, it's coming. With this. So, next box. Literally half of that money is what I get to spend on food, if that. So this is what I have to make a meal, typically, with whole grains, protein, fruits and vegetables, milk, that kids like. And I'm moving towards scratch cooking, and that's not saving me money because that's more labor. Okay, so just for context, really wanted to get to those numbers. Reimbursement rates are extremely important. We did some quick math. You can go to the next slide. If you just want to see a New Richmond, this is if a child ate 180 days of the school year. Breakfast and lunch. You can see the highlighted lines for those totals. We know that typically doesn't happen, right? And this is for the paid kids only in New Richmond. But just for context, if you have 2 elementary kids in my district eating every day, you're going to look at $1,600 a year. If you have a middle school and high school kid, you're looking at almost $1,900. And families see a kiddo in each, you're looking at about $2,700 just to have lunches. And the one thing during the school, public, private, all of the things, because private, you're paying that tuition, and does that cover meals or not? It all comes into play. So Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, so now that we know how finances work on the school side, I want to talk about the need in the community and why this is so great right now. So, Allison talked a little bit about something that happened in 2022, right? All of a sudden, the federal government was like, we can move past this. Free reduced pay, we're going back to the old system. What else happened? Does anyone know like what else happened near the end of 2022? November-ish. It's when inflation really shot up. So what we had is this universe, this world that we all wanted to live in, where kids didn't have to worry about a charge for a meal, and childhood hunger dropped to the lowest level since the Clinton administration. Then we saw the largest one-year increase since the Great Recession in childhood hunger. And we saw that it was just a barrage of things hitting families. We had the pullback of universal meals for kids. We had grocery prices increasing at the store. As that's happening, we saw at a food bank the largest increase in new visitors that we've ever seen, that we have data for new visitors. We saw increases in food pantry attendance jump 30% in some areas, to 100% in some areas, to 500% in other areas. And our partners, we have 370, report that they are seeing numbers as high or higher than the peak of the pandemic. So as this stuff is happening, who do you think is coming to food pantries? So we surveyed, we asked. The two biggest groups of people coming to food pantries for the first time, senior citizens, because they got hit the hardest with some of these reduction in benefits, and parents with school-age kids. Two biggest groups of people coming to food pantries. Because the groceries, just thinking about where we're at with groceries right now, if you bought $100 of groceries, maybe 4 bags, 2 bags on each arm in 2019, what that bag of groceries costs today is $128. So you're basically, if you only have $100, you're losing one of those bags of groceries is essentially what you're doing. And when you lose a quarter of your food purchasing power at the grocery store and you don't qualify for these other programs, you're in a bit of a pickle. And that's when we start seeing kids, families, moms, students, etc. start coming and talking about this. And that's also when we saw the rise. If you look at that map from Allison at the beginning, yeah, the map of where this is passed, there's a little bit of political partisanship in where that's passed. But you look at where the work's being done, and there's huge movements, and there's no red, blue, purple, and everything in between is where work is being done, because this need and this pain is being felt throughout America right now. When we talk about this, about who these folks are, this chart, it's tough to see here where you're sitting. Here's the gist of it. The bluish, purplish line, and that first one at the bottom, that's full-time employees that are food insecure. And then the orange and yellow are part-time. So you have this significant number of people, maybe like 55, 60% of people, are working full-time, part-time, and still food insecure.
And I just want to put it into perspective from what Matt is saying, and I realize this is a chart that I use in my work to approve those free and reduced meals. I know it's hard to see, but on the top, a family, this is for this coming school year, a family of 4 with a gross income, please keep that word in mind, of $4,811 will not qualify for reduced or free meals, okay? Do you know what that number means? For me, I need to see it all laid out, so let's lay it out. So that's just the number where it falls, reduced category. So let's look at this, and I'll kind of read it out. I just went on Google, I admit, my research could be flawed, but I just went on Google to find Wisconsin averages for just common household bills, right? So I have mortgage, car payment, grocery bill, electric, gas for vehicle, child care, internet, trash, and car insurance. And that for a family would equal $3,966 with state averages, okay? So that's great, right? Because they're saving $845 compared to that number up top. But remember I said gross? So now let's have taxes come out. Really? They're in the hole $80. So we're using gross income, and this typical averages of Wisconsin households doesn't even make sense for a common family of 4 to qualify for these meals. So So again, my research could be flawed, but I just wanted to make it very simple and see it for myself, how this all played out, and see how close we could get. And to me, I don't see any way that it could work if you're trying to, I know some people can do without cars and all of these things, but it's just, I think, a little bit shocking. So what did Wisconsin do with those bills? I just want to explain that. So what Wisconsin's approach was, will it be in the future? We don't know that yet, and I think we'll be talking about that here down the road. But those last bills that we talked to you about that they failed, what it was trying to do was basically, you can do the rest. There you go. What it was trying to do is we were asking the state of Wisconsin to give state dollars to cover school nutrition programs for this difference. So the difference between the paid reimbursement and the free. So for every meal that we serve, we would in fact get this dollar amount and not have money coming in from parents, but still receive that free reimbursement for every child that we serve. So we were asking the state of Wisconsin to fill that gap. So again, this was sort of an average of state reimbursement and different things times what we know from DPI data of how many meals. And again, this is, remember, last year's reimbursement rate, so this number will be a little lower than what it would be if we calculated it this year. We were asking the state for $162 million annually. And I think Allison will say it, but we have that. We have that in our state available, and we keep getting denied.
So going on to that, how will Wisconsin fund healthy school meals for all? Bobby's already hit on the numbers in her district, and I just want to look at some averages here. Once again, we're thinking about what are we asking the state to contribute versus like what is the current situation. So if we're just taking some averages for, you have a student participating in lunch somewhere in the state of Wisconsin, let's say that lunch is $3.50, they participate 180 school days, it's about $600 to feed that kid every day throughout the school year. Breakfast, similar calculation, we're looking at about $360. So in this calculation, we're almost looking at about $1,000 if your student wants to participate every single day in breakfast and lunch. Now it could vary, even at half that, $500 if your student wants to participate half the time. So it is estimated, back up, I mentioned we had 2 bill introductions. We also had healthy school meals for all, including Governor Eber's budget. And so the numbers that we're presenting here for you today are from that inclusion in the state budget. At that time, when Governor Evers included healthy meals, healthy kids in his state budget, it was estimated to cost the state about $120 million to serve all students in the state of Wisconsin free meals. So that's based on the current participation, plus a factor in there for participation likely increasing. We know that not all students are going to eat school meals, so when I say all, it's the number that we're expecting to participate, $120 million. What is this going to cost per average taxpayer? When the state budget office calculated that it's going to cost the average taxpayer $55 per year to fund this. Okay? $120 million seems like a large number, but if we factor that out to what it costs for the average taxpayer, $55, to me, doesn't seem like a huge dollar amount. I do want to put the caveat out there. If you look at the news, I showed you some news clippings, but you're also going to see, if you Google Healthy School Meals for All, that participation in states has gone up even more than what was expected. Looking at our neighbor of Minnesota had participation go 30% above what they were expecting. So I want to be realistic with you. Okay, $120 million was budgeted, but let's say we didn't quite budget that correctly. Let's put a fact. Let's increase that. $162 million now. Let's say our participation goes like Minnesota did. $75 per year for the average taxpayer. Now, if we're comparing those numbers across, $75 for the average taxpayer to do healthy school meals for all, or if we continue the same system, if your student were to eat every single day, breakfast and lunch, $11,000, $500 and a half. And I think many of us know, Wisconsin has a state budget surplus. When I was looking this up most recently, WPR said our current budget surplus is at $3.25 billion. And I know I was chatting with some other folks in education, they were like, Allison, we've spent that in so many different ways already. And I go, well, wouldn't it be so great to spend this on school meals, which is going to help education as well? Spend it all on education. I'm gonna turn things over to Matt to ask some, to answer some common questions that come up.
So, I feel like at this point, even before coming in, everyone's on the same page here, right? We all feel like this is important, something we should do for our kids. But has anyone ever had conversations with other people or seen things in the media about like why this might not be a good idea? Yep.
So during COVID, I actually got this for one of my daughters, and it was,
Yeah.
so I'm all for this, which is why I'm here, but it was complete crap. Like, I wouldn't even feed it to her. Like, it was a bar, and the main ingredient was high fructose corn syrup. I mean, it was just, so when we're dealing with like toxicity and chemicals and obesity, do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't even feed it to her, so that was my only impression of it. But I'm here because I believe in what you're doing, but it was crap and more.
I feel like there's two things there.
Right.
The first thing.
We had like videos of her
Bobby,
opening
too.
it, and it was gross.
But like one of the things that as an outsider, Bobby, I can let handle the one part. But like as someone that doesn't work in a nutrition department, as someone that works at a food bank, one of the things that I know is that one, there's a significant number of kids that are hungry, and that being able to get that however we can is important. The second piece of that is we can do better, and a ton of school districts are doing better. And there's templates and models out there for how to do this in an incredible way. Bobby is a good example. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about like what school districts are doing, like the meal quality piece.
Right, I mean, you saw that, what was it on the screen, $2.11 worth of food to be able to purchase to make a meal. Doing that in your home is nearly impossible. So making that quality piece all comes down to numbers and planning and strategic planning. And here's the downfall. School nutrition directors and planners and everything like that are just like everybody else. Boomers are retiring, there's holes to fill, and the easiest thing to do is attach yourself to that position and listen to the manufacturers who are very, very loud and come in and say, our food is compliant. Here, serve it. And then we can check the box so when DPI comes in our door, we know we're compliant and we don't get any red flags and have any fines. So unfortunately, I think personally that just like in our own world, we're up against marketing and commercials in the grocery stores with our kids and the bad stuff versus the good stuff. And if you didn't, so like cereal is formulated different for schools than you'll see on the shelf. So you have a kid come to our school and eat our cereal, they might not like it because it's not as sugary as what's on the grocery store shelf. So we are doing everything we can to feed our kids healthy meals, but when our food is very different from what they get at home or at a restaurant, they don't want to eat with us. So we have all of these things coming up against us, yet you have people like me throughout the entire state that are working, and it is a slow process. But we can get there and we can make that impact. Go ahead.
So I have 2 children who are in the district as well, and I make them both do school lunches. And a couple of things. I don't know if you're in the Madison district, if your kids are in the Madison district or not.
Well, and I have a follow-up too.
She does.
Okay.
One and one.
So there was a time, especially when we were coming off of the federal funding, that we were struggling because we now had to source, enough food to be able to serve all our kids with a new budget now, right? So there was a transition period of that, and also that's when we had supply issues because of COVID. And additionally, most of the schools in Madison have not even a full-time staff person, but a half-time staff person.
No, I know all the reasoning behind it. I'm just saying a lot of parents were really disappointed. And
Right. So
it can
I
affect,
just want to that window.
only because it can affect focus and attention too, and then that affects scores, and then we need more money for.
And so, one other quick follow-up on this too, like, we get what we pay for, right? We get what we invest in, like, all these politicians always say, show me your budget, I'll show you your priorities, right? You hear that all the time. And I think it's important. I think you can see it district to district. One of the things that I love about something like this is we're actually like shifting the investment into something so that we're empowering school districts to be able to make better choices and to be able to have that flexibility and not have the tight shoestrings around figuring out like, how do we even make it through? Because I see rising school meal debt because some parents just can't make it. And then I'm still trying to figure out how, Bobby's talking about the a la carte line, how to be able to do that. And obviously, when you have this really strange situation where everything else is funded in a different way than school nutrition, it's like, how do we break out of that and make sure that we kind of release the tension and be able to invest in things that we care about?
Matt hit that on the head. Like, this is a stepping stone to a layered problem in our departments and school nutrition. I mean, it comes down to funding, and then we have access to commodity foods. So like there's, and those commodity foods are typically more processed and the things we typically wouldn't want our children to eat. So there's layers of issues, but if we can get that participation there and get those kids to avoid that stigma and get those bellies full, with that we can make those changes. I'm only able to advance my menus in my district because I have high participation. Doesn't matter that I'm only 30% free and reduced. I have high participation, so I have that steady income. But now in the last 2 years, my typical negative debt went from hovering around $5,000-6,000 to 30.
Am I reading the bill right that it says to participate in the program, school needs to be in the breakfast program and the lunch program? Like, what if we just change that to just the lunch program? That might be helpful. And then another tip is bipartisan, like make it bipartisan is the only way it's gonna go.
Oh, 100%.
Trying.
And one of the things that, like, absolutely, you're totally right. You have to have something that is bipartisan. The thing that we've seen in Maine and a number of other states, North Dakota saw a huge bipartisan effort to be able to put something through too. And in St. Colorado, there's a lot of examples across the state. Wisconsin is actually one of the only states that has only had one party support. I don't know if I can think of right now off the top of my head another state that doesn't have bipartisan support.
Is the bills work very differently?
No.
Are the bills?
So the original bills, no. The ones that have passed the full Healthy School Meals for All, no, it is not framed differently.
Are you guys interested, what if you just narrow it to be just the lunch program, or the choice, right, like they'd be in breakfast and lunch, or what if they're just in lunch, is there a way that you can make that, those schools qualify for the bill as well?
As an anti-hunger advocate,
Yeah. And I know
Wisconsin ranks last or near last in number of schools that participate in school breakfast already, and we're 35th in the country in school breakfast participation.
Just maybe you could sit down and
No, I know what you're saying. What we would look at with any of this stuff is like, we know the goal of where we want to get to, right? We know we want to make sure that we're living in a world where kids don't have to worry about charge for school meals. And if there's a step that we need to take first in order to get there, then there's a step that we need to take first in order to get there. But I feel strongly about the importance of school breakfast, knowing that it is and also for, like, Bobby can speak better to this, I know when we're talking about school breakfast and the federal reimbursements from school breakfast, I have heard stories of school districts, and Bobby Allison can speak better to this, where school breakfast can help out a school district's reimbursement in budget, because sometimes the cost of production of that breakfast, the federal reimbursement can elevate it. And again, it comes back to economy of scale. So I want to touch first, I want to go through a couple of these real quick here. So when we're talking about like messaging around this and just kind of misconceptions, this is not a mandate to eat school meals. Anyone can bring a lunch from home. I feel like that sometimes gets lost, but we want to be able to like encourage that, but also know like this isn't a school meal mandate. Next. How could we ever afford this? It's a choice. I mean, I think I kind of went through this a lot of these already, but we have the money to do this. We have the money to do this 10 times over right now. And it's an investment now, or we pay for this one way or another. We pay for this on the front end or on the back end. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about right now too is, I don't know if it's the next one on this. So the last thing I just want to say on this too, this is the most common one. Why can't parents that afford to pay still pay for school meals? Here's the thing. That concept of parents that can afford to pay for school meals is completely changed in the course of the past 5-10 years. It's completely changed. We are living in a different economic world in 2024 than we were even in 2019, 2018. Bobby went through it, I went through it. The families that quote unquote can afford to pay, if you have a family of 4 making $41,000 a year annually, guess what? You don't qualify for free meals. But you know, and like that whole concept has been turned on its head, and there aren't really all this whole big group of families that can afford to pay and just live in Highland Hog, and now we're getting free lunch.
I think, just to add to that, sorry, I know we're running short. I think us as a coalition, we're really trying to say that this is a working class issue. You know, we have things in place, and we have since World War II, for families that in poverty to access these meals. But this is a working class issue, and I think that verbiage is what's going to get that other side of the aisle on board with us, and they need to understand all of these other pieces at play. They're coming out to my kitchen, they're starting to listen, we just have to find that champion, and that's why we're here today.
And along with auditing those applications, every school I've come to, there was a handful that were just on the edge. They're making just too much to qualify for. Want to touch on, you know, who Healthy School Meals for All will help. We talked about students, we talked about households. In my current role right now with Green Food Group, I work to connect farmers with their communities. Yes, I'm passionate about this from my work at my former work at DPI as an auditor, but I'm also passionate about this for my current work, because when school districts have consistent participation or higher participation, they're getting more funding, and they can purchase locally from farmers. One of the big things that came out of the pandemic, Local Food for Schools funding, LFS. Wisconsin received $3.4 million for schools to purchase from local farms, and I will tell you, it was a huge success.
Is that a federal program?
It was a federal program, yeah, and then it was administered by the states. DPI administered it here for our state. And they're just in the process of getting their, like, officially publicizing that information on the website, but conversations we've had with them, they're like, huge success. That funding is stopped. But if we do Healthy School Meals for All, and those school districts are getting that consistent and greater funding, they can continue those connections they've made through the Local Food for Schools funding, and the connections they've made to general school farmers.
How will it help schools? Just bring them all up there at 4. You guys can probably guess it, but I have a full-time admin assistant. All she does is process application and is a headhunter to try and get our negative debt paid, right? That's literally her job. Imagine what I could use of her if I could eliminate that work and we could actually concentrate on getting rid of the crappy food and training our staff to cook and all of those things. So I just want to hammer that support, that piece home. It would be a very big reduction in administrative burden to allow us to then improve our programs exactly like you're telling us you want.
I think we've gone through this enough. I can skip over, but how will it help Wisconsin families? I hope the evidence will provide overall.
And the same with the next, with how will it help Wisconsin kids? I know we're nearing the end, but we all know it. The headlines show it. There's research to show it. A well-fed child will learn better. And we as school nutrition professionals, my biggest goal is to become an integral part of the school day. I want to be considered an equal in my district. I don't want to just be the help in a food service that doesn't mean anything. And I feel like that free and reduced application just tells us that we're not as meaningful in the district and when a hungry kid can't learn. So we're meaningful and that's going to be beneficial.
To bring it home and wrap it up, we had, some space. We're just getting that song. We're going to go right in here. So what can you do? Matt's got clipboards if you're interested in being on our listserv for the coalition or being active in our coalition. Even if you can't attend our coalition meetings, we encourage you to sign up just to stay in the know. But you can also scan this QR code and that'll take you to our webpage. We also have a Take Action Toolkit in the process of updating for this, this upcoming school year, but a lot of really great resources as well. Please know that if you have any questions after this or you're interested in getting more involved in your district, we are always happy to help. If you go to our website and you go to the contact us, that form comes right to me, and then I disseminate it over to our leadership team as well as our coalition members. So
a little bit of swag up here. Support us on your notebooks and water bottles. Come and grab some.
grab stickers. I know we're at 12:05, which is time. Anyone, either of you want to add anything extra?
Nothing. I'm gonna stick around. If people got questions, come talk to us. Yeah.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.